All right. So the world is turning very fast. It's turning so fast. It's already March. It's already 2026. AI has already taken over. Autonomous cars are everywhere here. Climate change breaking points loom ominously. Donald Trump, only a year into his term, has already set countless disasters in motion. It's turning so fast. And yet, at the exact same time, the world is turning so slowly. Regulating AI, glacial. Reduction of harmful global emissions, flowing like molasses in winter. I'm still constantly stuck in traffic, despite the promise that autonomous vehicles would usher in a Jetson-style efficiency. And Trump is just over a year into his term, almost 3 more to go, slowly. So the world turns, whether we like it or not. Sometimes, as I said, it spins so quickly that we feel centrifugal force tugging at our own sanity. And other times it crawls so slowly that we can hear the clock ticking in surround sound. In order to remain sane and to best facilitate the propagation of our values, it would certainly help if we could regulate the speed at which the world turns. If we could turn the world or change the pace of the spin. And here's the good news. We can. So not obviously the literal speed of planetary rotation, but we can regulate the perception of time. And perception, as it turns out, is everything. Time is relative. Albert Einstein demonstrated this scientifically when he established that the speed of light is constant for all observers regardless of motion. And for those of us who do not casually solve tensor equations before breakfast, he also offered a more accessible explanation. Put your hand on a hot stove for a minute, and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour, and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. Those are Einstein's words. Our experience of time, it bends and it stretches according to our emotional state. There's even research suggesting that our perception of time can affect our bodies, how our bodies function. In a study published in the journal Nature, researchers Peter Engel and Ellen Langer, explored how perceived time influences healing. In their Harvard experiment, they actually bruised participants' forearms, and then they placed all the participants in different rooms, all for 28 minutes exactly. But yet in some of the rooms, they had clocks that were ticking at a normal speed. And in some of the rooms, they had clocks ticking at half speed. And other rooms, they had clocks ticking at double speed. Yes. So despite waiting the same 28 minutes in all the room, participants whose perception was that time passed quicker because the clock was ticking faster, showed greater healing. And those who believed less time had passed healed more slowly. Yeah. The body responded not merely to chronological time, but to psychological time. And you said, wow, even the researchers were surprised. They didn't expect that. The mind and body do not merely communicate, they collaborate. Expectations influence physiology. You know, when you're anxious, you get sicker. When you're happy, you feel better. Perception shapes reality. We may not be able to manipulate time itself, but we can manipulate how we experience it. And bless you. And that experience has measurable consequences. Consider traffic. 15 minutes in Los Angeles traffic when you are late for an appointment can feel like time is standing still. At 15 minutes feels like an hour. But spend, and this is very much like what Einstein said, but spend that time, that same 15 minutes, sitting on a blanket in the grass by a tranquil pond, on a picnic date with a new and exciting love interest, and time evaporates. You look at your watch and you think, I can't possibly have been here for only 15 minutes. Your breathing slows and your nervous system is calm and your perception actually compresses. When we're angry, when we're anxious, angry, fearful, stressed, time expands. It magnifies our discomfort. But when we're joyful and calm or engaged, time flows. It nourishes. So if we want to remain sane in a world that often feels like it's speeding toward its own annihilation, we must learn to reverse this dynamic. We must learn to slow the spin of the world when we are feeling positive so we can dwell there longer. We must learn to move through anxious stretches, not by denial, but by recalibrating our perception. And there are at least two powerful ways to do this. The first involves awe. I often translate when people say, what is a religious experience to an atheist, to a humanist, to a secularist? I translate religious experience into secular language as an experience of awe. Awe is that moment when something is so vast and so beautiful and so intricate and so unexpected that it quiets the ego. And when we experience awe, we lose the need to hurry through it. We become fully present. We expand. A 2012 study published in Psychological Science found that people who felt awe were less impatient, more willing to help others, and more inclined to prefer experiences over material possessions. Awe slows us down, and it stretches our sense of time, and it increases generosity, and it deepens connections. In other words, awe is not just a pleasant feeling, it is socially transformative. And awe is not reserved for mountaintops or cathedrals. It can be found anywhere. It can be found in a piece of music, in a child's response, in a scientific discovery, in a moment of collective singing, or in a breathtaking vista through a giant glass window. Yeah. The second way so that's one way. The second way to slow time is related, especially when things are good, and that is savoring. Dr. Chomsky describes three types of savoring, or as she reframes savoring, saying to life. That's what she calls savoring. There is anticipatory savoring, looking forward, feeling the pleasure of expectation. There is in the moment savoring, fully inhabiting each moment, like we did in the meditation. And there is reminiscent savoring, revisiting a cherished memory to reactivate its emotional resonance. Fundamentally, if you focus on a positive moment, past, present, or future, and you deeply focus on the people, on the setting, on the emotions of the moment, all of the sensory details that make it positive, you're amplifying it, you're deepening it, you're extending it. You essentially become the observer as well as the participant. And you open your heart then to feeling awe and to diminishing or erasing unease. Mackay Albert, writing in Epic Health, offers two specific ways to assist with engaging in joyful moments, to go a little further. He talks about being in nature, which we know, and variation. So engaging with the natural world is one way to assist with engaging in joyful moments, and introducing variety, introducing novelty into our routine also kind of flips our autopilot off. It slows us down, awakening us to the joy in the moment and awakening us to finding more joy, imprinting these moments in our memory and making them accessible whenever we need them later. Savoring. How many of you here can vividly remember a recent really great vacation? I can. Or a loving dinner with family. Vividly remembering an exhilarating hike in nature, a beautiful concert. There was one here the other night. You can likely remember it clearly. You can see it in your mind's eye. You can recall maybe who was there, what the space looked like, what you felt. If you close your eyes, you might even feel your shoulders drop a fraction of an inch while you remember this great memory. Try it yourself. You know what? I don't think any preacher has ever said this. Oh, I don't have my lavalier. That's all right. I'll stay here. But I'd like you to pull out your phones if you have them. Turn them on. Yes, I'm serious. If you have them. If not, that's okay. And open your Photos app. Scroll to a picture, if you have one, that captures some great memory or some person that you love. And if you don't have a phone, or if you prefer not to participate in what may be the first liturgical use of a smartphone, simply bring to mind a memory, bring to mind an image that you love, or the face of someone who steadies your heart. Now let your attention linger on that image. Don't just glance at it, stay with it, enhance it. Notice details that you might have normally just skimmed past. Oh, I didn't see that in the picture. Look at that. What was the lighting like? What's the coloring? What were people wearing? What was happening around them at that time, just outside the frame? See if your senses can join the experience again. What did the place smell like? What sounds were in the background? Music, laughter, the hum of conversation. And now notice your emotions in that remembered moment. What were you feeling then? If you were there, what were you feeling about it? Joy, safety, excitement, relief. And then shift into what do you feel right now as you hold that image in your awareness? Think about the people who were there, what they mean to you. Let your heart just swell a little looking at that picture. Retell the story in your mind, where you were, what happened, why it mattered. Just allow yourself to ride those pleasant feelings as you do. And just see how it makes you feel. Does it feel like the world is spinning a little slower? Things aren't moving as fast, even briefly. I can clearly recall. All right, now pay attention to me and put your phones down. I'm just kidding. Yeah. The world's got to spin faster again. Okay. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah. I can clearly recall my family's recent holiday to Northern California and to Las Vegas. The vineyard glowing in the sun, I can see it in my eye. The smell of the redwoods, the laughter over dinner. When I revisit these moments, my nervous system responds. I relax. But ask me what I did 2 Tuesdays ago at 2:17 p.m., and I have no idea. Because it was routine, unexamined. Unsavored time dissolves. It leaves little or no imprint. And the implication of that is profound. So if we want time to feel fuller, richer, and more expansive, to slow the spin of the earth, we must attend to it. We must mark it. We must witness awe, and we must savor the moments. So what does this all have to do with a pledge drive? Everything. If you are here, which I imagine you are since you're here, if you keep coming back to PUC, then this community is likely one of the places where you come to intentionally slow time. PUC is a refuge from the dust storm kicked up by the tornado of the world. It is where awe can be cultivated and is cultivated. It is where savoring is practiced. I often tell people that I don't mind actually my commute here, because when I arrive on this campus, something immediately shifts just being here. The space itself elicits awe. In addition, I focus on meaningful things, even in the car when I'm coming. I listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and I make pastoral care calls to congregants. And that allows me to savor the time even in traffic rather than waste it fretting about getting ahead of the car in front of me. Or at least that is my intention. Road rage is actually a cultural thing in LA, and I do want to fit in, so. As my family will attest, I give into it once in a while. And there is anticipatory savoring on my commute as well, because I'm savoring the idea knowing I'll arrive at PUC to engage in powerful meaning making. The pledge matters because what we do here matters. The relationships in beloved community, the engagement with youth, the mutual pastoral care, the learning and teaching about vital subjects, the life-giving activities, the variety of experiences, some of them that are comfortably regular in a non-scatological sense, and others that are exciting and that are new. We have the regular chalice closing at the end of service. We anticipate that, and we have so many new events going on, exciting and new. The conversations with people who share our values, and the conversations of those who challenge us to think more deeply about meaning and compassion. There are actually few places outside perhaps our own living rooms that offer such consistent access to awe. It's if we take advantage of it. And awe is not a luxury. It is a medicine. In anxious situations, I bring PUC. I bring this community with me. I recall a conversation, a song, a shared laugh, a moment of insight. I anticipate then returning. I savor what has been, and in doing so, I slow time. I reset. The practicality of a pledge drive does involve numbers, dollar amounts, and volunteer hours, numbers of volunteer hours. Budgets and spreadsheets and strategic plans, these are necessary. They sustain us. They sustain the infrastructure that makes awe possible. But the return on this investment is incalculable. It's not merely programmatic, it's existential. In a time when the spinning of the world is truly dizzying, when headlines spike cortisol before breakfast, when we oscillate between doom scrolling and denial, places like this can recalibrate us. They stretch positive time and they compress despair. They remind us who we are and what we value. We cannot stop the planet from spinning, but we can change the pace by changing how we inhabit time within it. We can seek awe. We can savor joy. We can invest in the spaces, so many like PUC, that make both of these things possible. And perhaps if enough of us slow down long enough to notice what is beautiful and generous and humane, then maybe the larger world will begin to feel a little less frantic and a little more hopeful. So my question to you today is not always a comfortable one, but it is a necessary one. What are you willing to pledge in time and in money to harness and to propagate that hope. Thank you.